on this computer. Michelle Brock, welcome back to the Hey Sunshine podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me back. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited you're here as well. And honestly, last time we spoke on our last episode together, I was buzzing afterwards. I think it was like 3 days. I couldn't stop telling people about you and just our conversations we had. And when I was like coming up with this concept of the Hey Lover mini series, I was like, okay, what is my like dream panel of guests that I want to like chat to and pick their brains about love, relationships, dating, all the things. And you were like front and center on the panel.
I love it. Thank you for thinking of me. It's a topic that I love talking about and could talk about all day. So
100%. Well, we'll see how long we've got in the tank.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's listening, like today, Michelle and I are going to dive into soulmates, twin flames. We're going to bust some myths around this. We're going to talk about some epic stories you have from either yourself or your clients, and really just kind of like bust the lid on this whole soulmate twin flame biz.
Love it. Love it. Let's
So
do
good.
it. Yeah.
So Michelle, how I'm starting these this mini series is we're doing a speed dating rapid fire questionnaire sort of thing.
Love it.
So you're in the hot seat. It's just a like fun little way to just warm up. So I'm going to ask questions and then you just rapid fire your answers back to me.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. So for everyone who's listening, where did you grow up?
I spent most of my childhood in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Cool.
Yes, it's a great place to be a kid.
Awesome. And your human design?
Somebody's done my chart. It's fascinating. Yes.
Yeah.
I am a manifesting projector
generator.
3-5. I know
amazing.
That. Yeah.
So good.
It's interesting. I've learned a little bit about it. I would definitely like to know more.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And what's your love language?
I am definitely a quality time person.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Do you know your attachment style?
I am It's evolved over time as I've matured and healed and grown. I definitely I'm definitely a little bit of a runner and a chaser, depending on the context.
The dynamic.
Yeah. I'm getting better at kind of just standing still and allowing things to kind of flow in a natural way. But I'm a Libra and a Libra rising.
Okay.
And I have 5 planets, including Venus, Mars, Pluto, in Libra in my first house. So I'm a little bit of a whole thing.
Holy moly, that's crazy.
Yeah. So like relationships are super important to me. And I tend to, because I have Venus, Pluto, Sun, Mars, all conjunct within 9 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm really intense.
In the best way. I'm like, you're a catch. God damn it.
I mean, a lot of men are like, okay, wait a second. This is like, that's even before I tell them what I do for a living,
Oh my God. That is incredible.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that you wish more people spoke about?
I wish more people spoke about like childhood trauma in relation to relationships. I think that we kind of pretend like, oh yeah, we did our healing work or like whatever. But I think that a lot of our past, including our past lives, so maybe not just childhood trauma, but like trauma from the past, shows up at play in our most intimate interpersonal relationships. And I think that it's something that we maybe, I think the conversation is starting to change around that.
Yeah.
Like relationship as a healing modality in itself. I really believe in that and the power of it.
Yeah.
That's just what came to mind.
No, I'm so with you on that.
And like, people could talk about. Yeah.
Relationship is our biggest mirror. It's like people think when they're single, they're like, I'm healed. But I'm like, wait till you get in a relationship. I'm like, all your shit's going to come up. But if you're in a safe container, in a safe relationship, then you can work through your stuff and feel, supported and seen and safe, which is so healing in itself. So you're spot on.
Healing. Totally.
So what is the worst dating advice you've ever received?
Ooh. Not many. I don't really get advice very often.
You probably give the advice
because I'm the giver of advice. But I would say probably the worst dating advice would be to think like it's a numbers game, right? Just put yourself out there, and yeah, you have to go on 55 bad dates in order to find the one. And I think that that's a line of thinking that is kind of a little bit more logical and less maybe spiritual.
Yeah.
Where no, follow your intuition. And if something isn't grabbing you, you don't have to go and do it because it's the numbers game. Although you can be surprised, right? You can kind of like show up for something and not be expecting it. But yeah, that whole like numbers game thing, I hate that.
I know. Well, like some people could go on a date with the first person they meet and then it's the one. Like it's really, I think it's really like a soul journey game. It's like you're meeting the people you need to in order for your soul to grow and evolve until you find, you're human.
That's right. That's right. And your human might be your human for some time, and then you will both evolve and grow, and there's another human that you know. And but I am a big commitment person as well. I'm an in it to win it kind of relationship person. So.
I love that. I thought that about you. All in, Michelle.
All in, Michelle. That's me.
So what is a red flag and a green flag for you?
So a red flag for me is, God, there's so many.
Where do we start?
For me in dating, a red flag is somebody who isn't forthcoming or dishonest, too secretive, like, just kind of like, you don't have to spill your guts on the first date. But if you're like, want to tell me your childhood, it was perfect on your first date, I'm kind of like,
it's a red flag.
Yeah. Like, okay, what's your relationship with the truth, or are you hiding something, or were you brainwashed, or are you naive, or like all of those things. So I would say the red flag is really that like mistruth, like, or people that try to put on a mask that's too thick. We all want to present ourselves well, right, on a date, but somebody who comes in and tries to pretend like they're somebody they're not. As an intuitive, that usually gets past
you can
me.
Smell it out real quick.
Yeah. Green flags to me are, obviously good manners, show kindness, cares about their family, is capable of being curious and care about others, that kind of thing. I do have a bit of a history with narcissists that thankfully I've evolved past, but that's kind of my litmus test. Like, are you a narcissist? Because if you are, I'm out of here.
Oh my God. Well, maybe let's talk about this in the episode as well. I'm going to put this down as a note because I think there's like so many, I don't know if it's just in my field at the moment, but I think there's so many people even having like situations with narcissists or people who just show narcissistic traits. So I'm putting this down, we're flagging it because I think it's a really interesting one to go into.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to like zoom back to the start for people who are just like tuning in, be like, I don't really know much about this stuff. So like, let's go like ground zero, baseline, the basics, soulmate, and then twin flame. I'm like, that's a new hybrid.
Yeah. Soul flame. I like that. Yes. Okay. Like basically like, what is a soulmate?
Let's do it. Let's go. What is a soulmate? Okay. And then what is a twin flame?
Yeah. I love that because I think that term is like something that gets like tossed around a lot and over romanticized. Like he's my soulmate. In the work that I do, helping people uncover memories from their past lives for the last 17 years. I have come to define soulmate as anybody that you've known before in a past life.
That's cool.
That can be a lot of people. So basically the idea that your soulmate is your one perfect romantic partner is a complete and total myth, right? You can easily be soulmates with your mother or your sibling or your friend. You can be soulmates with an ex, right? Just because a relationship didn't work out doesn't mean that you didn't know each other before in a past life. And, this is kind of in the territory of something I like to call soul contracts. That you decide you're going to meet again. Like say, for example, you have someone that you were married to in a past life and you're kind of like, oh, this person is just not that great. boring. I wish I could go with Joey down the street or like whatever. And you totally ignore this person. Maybe after that lifetime, you kind of come together and he's like, yeah, you didn't really love me in the way I deserved. And you're like, yeah, I should have maybe been more open. So let's agree that like in the next life, we're going to date in college. I'm going to break your heart like you broke mine. Right. And then we'll be even. And it doesn't really work like that because I don't know.
Because then they go again.
Right. But to teach you the lesson of what it feels like to not like let love in or right. Or like, so it is about healing and it is about lessons because we reincarnate in order to learn lessons. And the way that we learn them are really not in a vacuum. We learn them through each other, these interactions. Right. So soulmates, though, I don't want to like, I kind of brought it down to earth, but at the same time, soulmates are special. They're those special people. They're those people that we feel an instant attraction to, or that idea that maybe they seem familiar somehow. And even too, I hear people say that they just knew they were going to be an important person in their life, whether it's for good or for like a really intense lesson or a bad disappointment or a heartbreak. It's just these important people that bring us these lessons. So, and it's important actually to kind of interject this at this point, that just because a soulmate is romantic in this life doesn't mean that they were not your father or your brother or your friend in a past life. So we change genders, we change roles with each other.
Yeah.
So, and it's actually quite common. I actually just worked with somebody earlier today who recalled the woman that his wife in this life was his little sister in a past life.
Yeah.
And they went through something really intense together and they survived together and they had this like deep loving bond with each other. And I was like, what a layer of appreciation to add to their marriage, right? Of like, we've loved each other in many forms.
In many lives.
In many lives, right? Love is an energy that isn't created or destroyed, right? Is that the law of thermodynamics? It just changes forms. And I've really seen that at work in my at play in my work doing past life regression with people.
So I think that's a really good point. Like soulmates isn't just romantic love. It's family, relational love, like all different levels. Because it's people just, they're like, I'm calling him my soulmate. And like, yeah, but that could be your sister. It could be, it could be anyone.
It could be anyone. It could be your next business partner or your next boss or that person that lives down the hall from you that drives you crazy and calls the cops on you or whatever, right?
Yeah. I remember dating this guy when I first got to Byron and it was very turbulent. Like it was like on and off and we just kept on coming back, like looping back into each other's lives. Like I would end things and then I would see him 5 times in a week, just randomly around around town. And I remember seeing a psychic afterwards and she was like, oh, he's a soulmate for you. And she's like, not a soulmate in a way of like you meant to be together forever, but soulmate is in you had some unfinished business to tie up in this lifetime. And I thought that's when the light bulb went off for me and be like, okay, soulmate, not just love. It's for me, anyone you have like a soul contract or some unfinished business with.
Yeah. And knowing that, did it help you kind of get closure on, okay, this is what I was supposed to learn from this person?
100%. Yeah.
And I've found that the connection, like, there's different types of soulmates as well, based on these soul contracts that I've kind of broken down into categories. I call some of them like soul family mates. And those are the people that are like the closest to you. My very best friend, who's been my best friend for 25, almost 30 years. She's been my mother in a past life.
That's right.
She's been my husband in a past life. She's like a person that I can rely on to be a stable force. But then there are these kind of more karmic soulmates, people that we are kind of working things through. And those tend to come with like tougher lessons. But those are the people that we're so drawn to, right? Like
it's weird, isn't it? Like you could spot them in a crowd of 100 and be like, I know you on like a very deep level. Yeah, you. It's so weird.
My favorite analogy for this phenomena is like the brightest fish in the tank is the poison one, right?
I literally said this quote today. We're in each other's brains, Michelle.
Yeah.
I love it. Because I saw this little thing at the beach and it was like this blue sea dragon, and I thought, oh my God, isn't that so beautiful? And then I thought straight away, I'm like, I bet you it's poisonous, and it turns out it is. You know,
it is. Yes.
Yeah.
And it is like, I think that most of us can relate to this, where we have these like tumultuous relationships that are like, I love you, I hate you, I can't live without you, and like a lot of drama. There are usually karmic reasons for that, right? And like we were saying, the attachment style, like the runner and the chaser, like, no, we're supposed to be together.
Yeah.
We're supposed to heal. I'm supposed to help you heal. And they're like, no, stay away, right? You know, sometimes it is, it can be really intense, like that you're just so drawn to them. But I have found that once that you figure out what exactly that lesson was, kind of like how this person told you, like, this is something that you need to learn, usually the connection wears off pretty quickly.
Oh, it did. It was like within a couple of weeks, I was like, I stopped like, you know, bumping into them as much. It was like the universe stopped almost like dangling these little carrots around. And I was like, no, I get it. I'm like,
yeah,
I can close that chapter now.
With them like at the tip of your tongue because they were in a dream, or like, you know, and it's like, oh, wait, I was into you?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's almost like the fog lifts and you're like, what was I thinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that that's by design, because we're supposed to be drawn to these people because we're supposed to confront the lessons. But I think that our interpersonal relationships, particularly our romantic relationships, are probably the most challenging part about life in human form.
100%.
Really do.
Yeah. I've always said that. I'm like, relationships, dating, love is the biggest container of growth for me ever, because it's something that I love, and I've always craved a deep love. So it's like, to go through and get what I have now, I had to go through the trials, the tribulations, the lessons, the learnings to get there. But I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through it. The
maturity and the growth from it, right? And I can't remember who this is a quote by, but it's like, someday the reason it didn't work out with everyone else will all make sense, right?
Yes.
You know, where that, like, you can't trade in your on the ground relationship experience, like really for anything, because then that is what leads you to the partner that you're with, or like the next partner that's for growth, right? So it's awesome. That's well said. Good. Yeah.
So I laugh because I'm a 3-5 as well in human design. And it's like, for us, it's learning is baptism by fire. Like we're not going to like walk along like the nice path. It's like, we're going to literally go through the coals, the fire, the ashes to get to what we want, because that's how we learn. So yeah, I resonate a lot with your 3-5-ness.
And I also think that you are, like me, a healer. So attracting wounded partners is something that we...
What? Surprise.
I got the t-shirt, you know, so, you know, that, but that's, like I said, it's all by design, but it doesn't make going through it in the moment any easier. So
that is a very good point.
Yeah.
So what about twin flames? Like a little bit of a crash course in twin flames.
So, okay. I kind of don't love that term.
Yeah.
Because I think that it is often what people attach to as what it is that they're looking for, with the idea that they have this other half that they're going to meet to complete them. And I have found that's a total myth. And we're wholes, right, on our own. And it's based on kind of a ancient wisdom that is kind of the theme around like the yin and the yang symbol. Yeah. That the light inside of the dark and the dark inside of the light. You know, what that actually symbolizes is that once you are a whole person yourself, then you can, you know, be a whole with another person, right? But I think that in dating today in 2023, I think a lot of us are like, oh, I'm looking for my twin flame, or because they're in a karmic relationship that feels extraordinarily intense, they explain away either bad behavior, lack of commitment, or the drama as this is my twin flame, right? Yeah. Now, it is true, though, that we do seem to have soulmates that have like tiers. I call them like higher level soulmates. We don't have just one. We have some that we've like been married to over many, many lifetimes. And so being married to them would be like being by ourselves because it's so comfortable. Right. And sometimes we get to be married to that person as a break.
Yeah.
Usually not, because we're here to learn, right?
That's
so
cool.
if we get to always find the greatest soulmate of this last millennium, then what are we looking for, right? The irony is, and not to wax like too poetic, but like the quest for the soulmate is essentially the quest for yourself, your own inner journey, right?
Yeah.
So you're not looking for someone to complete you, you're looking to complete yourself and be a whole person on yourself, which does take a lot of maturity. Some people do meet, like I said, sometimes we get a break. I know a couple that are in their late 70s, early 80s. They met when they were 19 and they're totally simpatico. And I'm so jealous. I'm like, I'm in my late 40s and I'm still looking for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but that's because both of them had work to do that required that level of support at home for whatever reason, right? They say God gives and God takes away. You know, some people have significant health challenges, right?
That's right. So they need a solid base of relationship to,
That's right.
Is a relationship like that significant of a mature soul energy, because they've kind of got to the end of their soul's journey in a way that they don't need to go through many lessons? Or
that's the other thing too. I don't know if there's an end.
Okay. I love it. Let's just drop this like bomb on this conversation.
As somebody who studies a lot of kind of like cycles in nature, and like people are like, oh, well, what about when we're done reincarnating on Earth? Or another question I got was, what if we destroy the planet and we can't reincarnate on Earth? And I'm like, have you ever laid on the grass at night and looked up at the stars?
Like, there's plenty other out there. Don't worry.
I'm like, to think that this Earth could be this only place that we could possibly reincarnate, to me is like, okay, you need to spend more time in nature, right? Or the idea that the leaves fall off the tree in the fall, is it dead? No, it
comes back.
It experiences endless cycles of life, death, and rebirth. But I do believe that some of us are more evolved. We've kind of done this Earth thing a little bit longer. So we're kind of like, oh, we're chilling. We get to kind of do more. One thing I have noticed though, and this is maybe more of I don't know if it's a generational or an era thing, or what like somebody might call like an epic in time, like different time periods in civilization. But it's very common hundreds of years ago to, if you were a healer or a spiritual person, to live a more monastic lifestyle, to not have to worry about love and kids and paying the bills or sharing the bathroom, right? Like, I've had a few of those. I'm like, can we go back to Tibet in the 1700s?
Yeah, can we do that?
Yeah. You know, and then in this life, I'm like a single mom living in Manhattan. I'm like, wait a second. Like, like, where's my mountaintop and my garden, and like, you know, being away from people. So I think that what that tells us, more people that are spiritual seekers are doing what is called like a householder tradition, right? Where it used to be like you couldn't be a monk if you had a wife.
Yeah.
Now it's like you can be on a spiritual path and be married and
have kids, and
because that is a spiritual path.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. And so I've noticed that that's actually far more common. Not to say that some people who have dedicated their lives to a certain spiritual practice or a spiritual path can't do that in this context today, but it's far more rare. And I think it's because our souls know that we have more to benefit spiritually from being in relationship with other people.
Well, like, how much could you actually, you know, there's a lot of internal work that would go on in the, you know, the mountains and the Himalayas if you're meditating 8 hours a day, but it's really the external work, as you said, the mirrors, the triggers that are actually going to promote like the deepest healing. It's like, I don't think it's a quote, but it's like, you think you're healed, go to Christmas with your family and just see how you go, you know?
Right. I mean, I'm like sitting there, sometimes I'm like having a fight with my teenager, and then I'm like, what's happening, right? You know, because it's like, but it brings out all this stuff in me, all of my unhealed stuff and like whatever. So it is, go on walks in nature, meditate, but go home and sit and have dinner with your family, you know?
Yeah. And
And like,
show up to the hard stuff. Like I
show up.
really love the I'm gonna probably butcher the quote, but it's like easy decisions and conversations, hard relationship, hard conversations and decisions, easy relationship. It's like when we show up to the
Yeah.
hard stuff, we get to have an easier relationship. But if we hide away from the hard stuff, we're probably going to have a harder, more difficult relationship.
And this is hard to navigate. This is not easy stuff. I don't want to make this like flippant, because yes, we choose our parents.
Yeah.
Right. Some of us choose abusive parents or neglectful parents, or parents who suffer from addiction and for whatever reason can't nurture us or parent us. But for whatever reason we chose that. How do we know when the choice is to cut that toxic parent off versus continue to work with them? Like I said, this is very nuanced stuff and very, very, very difficult. Or when to leave a marriage that's not serving you anymore, or when to dig in harder and make it work. Right.
That's a good point.
This is like really complicated stuff. And
I think
to me, go ahead.
And I was going to say with the twin flame thing, I think that's a hard thing, because as you said before, people in a twin flame, quote unquote, relationship, they're thinking, I need to stick this out. This person is my twin flame.
Right.
And people stick in really abusive and scary relationships and situations for way too long because they're holding on to this little title.
This is my person. This is my twin flame. Now, we have as many potential soulmates and romantic partners as there are choices in life. Because the future's not determined. We can always make a choice. You can screw it up with your soulmate. Any of us do. You can decide. You cannot be ready. Like, here's this person standing in front of you going, love me. And you're like, oh, I'm still too scared. I have these hangups or like whatever. So, and then also too, going back to the twin flame idea, that idea kind of comes from a lot of these legends. Like, first of all, Romeo and Juliet is not a romance, right? It's a tragedy.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
It's two kids who didn't know what they were doing and got so wrapped up in each other that they both died. Okay. So, and Tristan and Isolde, that's another one like that, a connection that's so powerful that you're so drawn to each other that you destroy yourself
and each other's. Each
other and each other's lives. Those are more karmic connections, but that also can happen when you do encounter a soulmate that has a higher spiritual vibration that you're not ready for. Soulmate reunions are about being of service to humanity.
Explain that a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
You get your soulmate when you're doing the work in the world that you're supposed to do.
That is cool.
And vice versa, right? They come along to kind of support you. It's the love that heals the world. And
100%.
Yes, there's romantic love and there's lust, but there's also just that pure kind of like spiritual love.
It's like the I got you love. Like, you go do your thing, I got you. I'm your secure base. Yeah.
Yeah. And that would be kind of more what a twin flame would probably feel like, rather than like, where are you going? What time are you going to be home?
Yeah.
What am I going to do while you're gone? That kind of
I can't live without you.
I can't live without you. So because of the fact that we have this intense pull to these kind of karmic soulmates and ultimately our twin flame, I also too, I have encountered a few people, and I do believe that there are, I don't want to say I don't necessarily believe in twin flames, but I have encountered some people in my work that have these kind of more twin-like soulmate connections. Some of them have been actual twins. Two of them, one of them, yes, but they're actual twins. And it's interesting that it was one, I worked with the one twin, and then she sent her sister to work with me. And then they were both married to men who were twins. Because,
oh my God. Why does that happen so often?
Because that's the only person who can understand the closeness and the intimacy of a relationship with twins is somebody who has that twin themselves. Instead, you're this person's husband, and you're like, they're talking to each other and you're like left out, right? So I met another, I'm going to call it a twin flame couple. They are best friends, and they are co-founders of a wellness company and entrepreneurs. And they've been best friends since high school. So
big.
It's not always, and yeah, and they're
Mm,
changing the way people look at wellness and look at
mm,
health, right? So it's about service to humanity in that way. You get your high level spiritual soulmates when you are like committed to the path
yeah.
of doing the work that vibrates on that spiritual level.
Mm,
Now that doesn't mean you have to quit your job and go be like a yoga teacher to like get your
yeah.
soulmate, but like, do you know what I mean? Like there are many ways to kind of to embody that and live that and share that.
So it's almost
So
like if you're calling in your, quote unquote, your person or your soulmate, whatever you want to call it, start to get in alignment with your passion and your purpose. And then that might open up more chances. Is that kind of,
yeah,
yeah?
you meet your soulmate on your path.
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. I love that.
Because and here I have like a lot of like little like kind of like meme quotes that I've
Yeah.
developed over time, but like your soulmate knows your soul,
Mm,
not your body, not your looks, not your success and your
yeah.
job. They
Or
know
the
your
mask you
soul.
wear. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm,
when you are being authentic and true to your soul and doing things that reflect your soul energy, you will
mm.
attract your soulmate.
I love that. Because
Yeah.
so many people, and I've done this time and time again when I'm calling in my person or I'm looking for love, is I'll be like, okay, what would they be doing if what would my partner be doing, my future partner? I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change my soul's journey in a way to align with theirs. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is like, no, stick your path, do what truly lights you
Yeah.
up, and that's where you're going to intertwine with this person or this soul.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing golf because you want to meet a golfer,
Mm.
then you're going to meet a golfer. It won't necessarily be your soulmate
Soulmate
unless
golfer.
golf is what like I don't know where I got that from.
Yes.
Unless golf is what lights you up also too,
Yeah.
right? Like that maybe was a
No,
really
I
watered
love
down
that. It is so
example, but
good. Yeah.
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 So yeah, we don't seek our soulmate, we attract our soulmate.
Mm.
That's super
Yes.
important, you know.
So
Two
good.
people who are meant to meet, this is the other part too, like the role that like destiny plays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe the future's determined. So I don't necessarily believe in fate,
Yeah,
because
cool.
fate is only something that we can actually understand by looking backwards in hindsight. Like that was meant to happen, right? But we can't understand fate like looking forward. We only can understand destiny, which involves our choices. You can stay home and be like, oh, I don't have an outfit that's like good for this party, or I don't like the way my body looks, or I don't have enough money or whatever, and stay home and miss that chance
Opportunity.
to
Yeah.
connect that with that soulmate, right? Yeah, like you like I said, you can meet that soulmate and still screw it up with them.
Yeah. All the
Because
choices, everyone.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we have our choices, and when you make choices
Yeah.
align with your higher self, your purpose, you will inevitably attract soulmates that reflect that.
I think that's really powerful. And yeah, and it's just like stay in your lane, do what you love. And then it's like, then you're going to like quadruple your chances of meeting your person. But
Absolutely.
yeah. So if we're trying to like spot a soulmate versus a twin flame, is there any like key things we should look out for? I know both are probably going to feel familiar.
Yeah, like I said, I really counsel people in my coaching practice to just like drop that term twin flame
Yeah,
altogether.
okay, cool.
Because like I said, it makes people feel like there's this one person, which is a myth, like we said, but like they're expecting this like intensity with it. Those are karmic relationships, right? Yeah. So like I said, with the twins or the girls that are friends that have this company that are twin flames, they sit together and it's like there's no drama, there's no fighting, we don't even have to talk, like right, like, so to have that kind of peaceful connection is what we're actually seeking, and that's from two people who have done their work, right? A lot of the couples, and this is like kind of strange to say, I'm significantly older than you, a lot of like couples that I know that are happily married did meet a little bit later in life. And it's because they needed to learn things. They needed to grow.
Yeah.
They needed to have life experience before they could kind of like show up for each other. Like, I've been through hell, you've been through hell, we found each other. And maybe there's an appreciation
I think that's a
level,
big point. Yeah. Yeah.
you know? Like, if we would have met when we were 20, would we have even been attracted to each other? Probably
I
not.
think that with Blake now, I'm like, if I'd met you when I was, 20, early 20s, mid 20s, I probably wouldn't have had the same level of appreciation. And I kind of needed to go through like, the turbulence of my dating experience to then realize, oh, I actually want a secure love. I want a safe love. I want someone to feel, seen and supported by. Because I think when, and I'd love your thoughts on this as well, when you grow up with kind of, trauma or an unsettled childhood in a way, that becomes your norm, which is quite dangerous when you enter the dating scene or love, because you're looking for turbulence, you're looking for uneasiness, you're looking for anything to reflect that energy because it felt familiar in childhood, and that's kind of like what you're calling it. It's almost like trauma bonding in a way.
It absolutely is. And this is like in the realm of what we were talking about earlier about narcissists also too. Narcissists are people who are deeply wounded people who, instead of diving deep into the work, decided to just put a mask on. And manipulate and use control. So that's why I was saying earlier that I think that we should talk about childhood trauma, past trauma, past hurts. We all have it. None of us have escaped it. Some of us have significantly more than others, right? But I was absolutely addicted to the like bad boy. Like now I'm like, can I just please like just settle down with the nice boring guy who like has a job?
With that. I know, right? You become sick of the game and you're like, I just want to settle down and find like a good person,
everybody wants to date that guy that like knows the doorman at all of the top clubs in the city. You're not supposed to marry that guy.
Tattoos, bad boy.
Not supposed to marry that guy. I did, but we got divorced, but do you know what I'm saying? Like that whole idea of like what is exciting or attractive, that's usually, like you said, trauma bonds, or it's like your own woundings, which is why, like I said, it's really important to do your own work. And also to, when you go through a breakup, do not start dating again right away. All of you people that are just like swiping right the next minute.
Oh man.
Do take a minute.
Yeah.
What did I need to learn about myself from this relationship? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I think that's so important. Yeah.
Then you can enter the next one more consciously, right?
Well, this is how people get stuck in pattern loops, I think, because it's like they go from person to person to person. And I'm like, hands up, I have been there. I've been this person. You literally go, okay, I'm ending this relationship. You find someone straight away, and then you go back into the same loop. And I reckon I was in a pattern loop for about 2.5, 3 years. And it was like the same, I would always say it's the same like energy of lessons in a different skin suit, just different person each time.
Their face changed, but they're
the lessons and the energy and what it was here to teach me didn't change until I started to really almost like shift out of the victim mentality and be like, why is this happening to me? To why is this happening for me? And be like, oh, there's something for me to learn here. Where am I not putting myself first? Where am I not speaking my truth?
Love that. Yes. Why it's not happening to me, it's happening for me, right?
It took me bloody, God knows how long to get there, but we always come around to it.
Like I said, I'm significantly older than you. I'm still working on it too.
It's all good.
And I wanted to say too that a lot of people come to me to do a past life regression with like the whole like, I need to know if my husband's my soulmate.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he's your husband.
I know. And like are you happy? Like, is that not enough?
Yeah.
As well?
Like, what do you need to know? Like, yes, we explore the connection. Like, why did we meet?
Yeah.
What do I need to know about our past? But like, I'm like, I don't know how many people actually get married to people like, I never met you before in a past life. You're totally new to me. Like,
hey, stranger at the aisle. Yeah.
Hey, stranger, let's try this, So, and one of the things I also like to counsel my clients is to remind them that the past life story behind your relationship is not the answer. Like,
Mm.
should I get divorced, or should I marry this person, or should I stay or go, whatever?
Yeah.
It's not the answer. It's just more information.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
That can
Yeah.
tell you, okay, well, you know what? There was one client I had who, she was like, I really, really want to leave my husband. She goes, but I feel like he's not going to be okay without me. Right. Like, and I'm like, okay, let's like explore this. Well, her husband killed her in a past life, like
Yeah.
straight murder, right? With a knife,
Yeah.
and then took his own life. And then so
Okay.
she, but
Yeah.
she had attached to that he was the one who wasn't going to be safe. I was kind of like,
Mm.
wait a second. Like, she unconsciously carried that, like, he's going to be destructive. She didn't even
Yeah.
put herself like, oh yeah, he destroyed me too, but he destroyed himself.
Yeah. It sounds like codependent sort of, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
still married.
Oh,
They're still married.
whoa.
And
But
they're
do you think
still
knowing that and getting that sort of healing from that past life, it almost helped?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And it was weird because she was like, now I know why he triggers me when he says this and this and this and whatever. So she took that piece of information, instead of being like, who wants to be married to someone who killed them in a past life?
Yeah.
To, wow, we have an intense karma between us. We met, and our job is to figure out how to love each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the healing. Like, running away from it, you're just probably going to meet in another life and have to go through it all over again. Like,
it's going to be even worse, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know,
but you can.
I do find people that split after a passive regression, but it usually kind of illuminates the reason that you're together. And often that can bond you to your purpose.
Yeah.
Your mutual soulmate purpose.
Well, it's like there's a greater meaning to this relationship. It's not just this lifetime. It's like the lifetimes before and the lifetimes we'll have ahead of us.
Right. And the karmic challenge that comes with that, because there's always, every soulmate comes with a challenge. Everyone.
So you'll laugh at this and name. So I won't name names here, but one of my girlfriends calls her ex a karmic fuckboy. And and we call him KFB for short. And I'm like, I love that, because she used to call him twin flame, but she's like, no, we're coming back here. It's a karmic fuckboy, which is exactly what it is.
She relabeled that exactly because it's like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, it's like the intense sex. Yeah. And like, I love you, I hate you. Like, yeah, it's karma. It's karma. Yeah. And once she figures out that, like, he'll probably have less of a hold on her or pull her. I get people that are like, I know he's married, but he's my twin flame. I'm like,
oh my God, no.
God, if I don't hear that one more time, like, no, I know he's not right for me. He should commit or like whatever, but he's my twin flame. It's like, no, that's not what that is. So that's why I'm not necessarily saying I don't believe in that. Like, hypothetically, that we do in nature exist as cells that divide. Yeah, like that imagery is not completely crazy to me. Anybody that's ever seen cell division, or even like in the universe, like the birth of a star, or like whatever, like we do separate from wholes. That's fine. We get that. That's not crazy imagery. But as far as like my life coaching practice, I'm like, stop using twin flame. Like, let's just not, and
stop seeking the twin flame. Like, it's not.
Yeah. We just want somebody we can share the bills in the bathroom with, right?
Like, I love that. And the fun times. Yeah.
And the fun times. That's right.
So I hope this question comes across in the right way, but someone who is looking for love a little bit later in life, like what advice do you have for them? Because I know there's so many beautiful people in my life that, are in their 40s and like, maybe even late 30s. And they're just like, I really want to find my person. Like, what sort of advice would you have?
To just believe in it. Like, I have she's a former boss of mine from like when I was in my 20s, and she was always single. She was married young in her early 20s. Yeah. That went really bad. And she was just always perpetually single, this beautiful, independent, creative, free-spirited woman. And she met her soulmate when she was 75.
Oh my God, that makes me so happy.
Through like a mutual friend. And it was when she finally let her guard down, a lot of, particularly as we get older, and I don't know if men do this in the same way women do. We're like, we're fine. We don't need anyone.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Don't need
like
no man.
Independent. Yeah. And we have girlfriends, right? Like, my best friend and I are like totally planning on, after our second and third husbands, to check into a nursing home together, right? And we'll be totally good.
I love
You
that.
know, I think that we have that sense of community with each other that men don't. But it was once she like opened herself up to the need.
That's
maybe
interesting.
I do want someone to share my life with, and maybe I do need someone, right? So I'm guilty of that a lot too. So my current partner will sit and watch me. I'm like screwing in a light bulb on the table on top of a thing of books, and he's just watching me like, are you gonna ask me to help?
Yeah, it's like, I'm here to help, but you gotta ask me.
Yeah. Or like my glasses will be on the desk and I'll get up and walk over around him to go get them. And he's like, you could have just asked me to get them.
Do you think it's familiarity of like just not asking because it hasn't been someone there before? Or do you think it's just purely because you're like, I'm independent, I can do my own shit?
I think it's both, but I think that the second part of that is the defense mechanism against the not having your needs met earlier, right?
Yes.
So, and that could go either way. I know people who are constantly like serial daters. They're never single. They're never alone. I need a man to pay my bills. I need to do that, right? So it can kind of go both ways, which is like, I think that talking about our trauma and our past and our woundings and doing healing work as much as we can on our own before we get into a relationship is probably the most important thing that anybody needs to know about attracting and manifesting a soulmate relationship.
Yeah.
Period.
100%. And then also with the caveat, I suppose you don't need to be healed, quote unquote, healed to call in your person. Like it's a fine line. It's like do the work, but you also don't need to be healed. You can do the work together as well. Yeah.
Well, because it is healing to be in a relationship. But it's like I said, there's a fine line to like not need somebody to heal you, that you have the power to heal yourself.
Yeah.
And they know that they have the power, they like to kind of do their own work, right? Otherwise you end up with trauma bonds and codependency, which I'm going to gander. I think 85% of marriages and long-term relationships today are based on some sort of codependency.
Yeah. Well, there's so many levels to it. Like even with my relationship with Blake, like we only discovered, God, it would have been like a month ago. We're like, oh wait, that's like super codependent of us, because there's so many layers, and like you do the work, peel it back. And then you'll get to something you're like, oh, that's really interesting. Didn't see that there. But it's the awareness of being like, oh, okay. Like what can we do about that to kind of just be two independents in this relationship together?
Yeah. And I think that what you're talking about is exactly what is meant when people talk about like conscious relationships, that you're like, wait, I just caught myself. Like, why am I freaking out about this? Or why, right? Like that's the kind of awareness that comes from having that relationship with yourself first and knowing who you are first before you get into a relationship.
Yes.
Some of us do in our 20s. Some of us don't until later. So
in our 70s, like your friend, you know?
Yeah. And like I said, she maybe that was her soul's journey in this life also too, that she was meant to kind of learn what life is like to be solo. And I know a lot of people who are single who are like, I love being single.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Like, like why does everybody think I have to be partnered in order to be?
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so there are as many paths to walk as there are
I know
individuals and choices and that kind of thing. So,
do we feel like, is there any other myths that we need to uncover around this sort of soulmate? We won't say it, twin flame.
Yeah. I mean, I think we got like no one can complete you.
Yeah, literally.
And also too, again, that love comes in many forms, right? And that we are here to learn lessons about love, which is why we need to be, we're emotional, interrelational creatures by nature. In fact, it's a human need, touch, like feeling needed and seen and all of that. It's stitched into our DNA. So, to not shy away from it, to be honest with yourself and with others, I think is some of the most difficult work we can do, particularly honest part.
Yeah.
I told you that was my red flag when somebody comes with a mask on. I'm like,
Shit.
I'm a stick,
Yeah,
right?
I know. It's like I can see straight through it. But also that part about being seen is freaking hard. And especially being seen from a soulmate. Like that is like the deepest level of vulnerability. Like I remember when I first started, dating Blake, I was like, the scariest thing about this is being seen fully for who I am and all of my darkness, all of my light, all of it. That was the thing that sort of gave me the most anxiety, but it's also the most healing thing to be fully seen in your entirety of who you are and loved 100%. For it. Like, mind blowing.
The higher level soulmate, and like I said, I don't like to categorize because I think that all soulmates are important, but like the higher level of spiritual evolution that both you have climbed to and that person has climbed to. Because a lot of people who do a lot of work on themselves, they're like, there aren't that many people up here where I'm at to date. Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I keep doing the work and I did this and I healed this wound and I understand this trauma, but they're there and they're also looking for you. Right.
Yeah.
I just think that, I was going to say that the higher level we climb, the more powerful the mirror is, right? And I'll share a personal story. This was maybe like 15 years ago. I went on a date with a man who was a very well-known healer into like in the city here. And I'd had a crush on him forever, like whatever. And then he had gotten divorced and I was like, oh, this is my chance with this guy. And he was significantly older than me too. But, he basically was kind of like, okay, we can have dinner. And then he sat down, he goes, we're too much. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, two healers? What he's like, what the fuck what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And I had actually, and so to prove it to me, I had actually, as I was getting dressed for the date, I had a watch that had the battery had died and I hadn't had it wound. And nobody even wears watches anymore. I just dated myself because we all have phones. But I go to put this watch on and I was like, okay, it doesn't tell time, but it looks pretty.
Yes, I do that all the time.
It on my date. Right. So like, he's like, this is too much. And then he finally goes, he looks at me and goes, what time is it? And I'm like, that he knew my watch isn't working. He knew that it was like a vanity, like, do you know what I mean? And then
oh my God,
I had picked the restaurant and it was like this like Moroccan restaurant. And he goes, I just got back from Morocco like 2 days ago.
Oh my God.
This restaurant. And so he basically was like, do you want to live with somebody who just like reads your mind like that?
Yeah,
no, like it was almost like too much, right? And so we agreed to be friends and we still are.
I love that.
But it's kind of like, you're explaining like kind of with your partner, like to finish each other's sentences and stuff. You can grow to that level, but it is intense. So you have to really kind of know who you are. And I'm sure like, he obviously wasn't the right person for me anyway. I was like, had a crush on this like older professional person in my space, but it's true. You have to be ready for it. You have to have the courage for it. And the vulnerability is the hardest thing that we all do as human beings. We all kind of want to present ourselves in a certain way, right?
100%.
To just be real and raw and be like, yeah, you know what? My watch is broken, but I wore it.
Because I wanted to look cute for you.
Because I wanted to look cute.
That's such a good joke. Do you know what? I'm glad you called that out because I always wear my watch that literally doesn't even tell the right time. But I'm like, no one's going to ask me. Like everyone's got their own devices in there.
Jewelry,
it's fashionable,
right? Totally.
I thought you were going to say like the healing powers of both of us combined started the watch. I was like, that's another story for another timeline.
And he's the kind of person he'd be like, what kind of bullshit are you talking about? No, like I said, it's honestly the most arduous spiritual path that we can walk is to be in conscious right relationship with someone, to not lie to them, to not cheat on them, which is like controlling behavior and like spreading around the intimacy, like, ooh, can't give all of my intimacy to this one person because then they have too much power over me, or like all of that stuff. So it is about really kind of like delving deep into your own stuff and attracting. Is this like the most unromantic soulmate conversation we've ever had. We're like
Do you
talking
know?
about
Do you know what? I
people
think it's real. It's been a real chat. Like it's like there's a lot of reality bombs we're dropping on this love
yeah,
space, but I think there's a lot
yeah,
of expansive ideas that we've brought as well. Like even the idea that there's not just one person you're meant to be calling in. Like you said, there's as
yeah.
many options as there are as many humans in this world. So
But
I think that's really beautiful.
I think though that I do want to tell your listeners, like, soulmates are real. This is how we experience like the magic of the ordinary, right? Where we have this moment where two people who could even have been born on the opposite side of the world, cross paths when the time is right. And I always tell that to people, two people who are meant to meet will meet, right? And I actually know a few people who have these interesting kind of soulmate stories about it. Like a lot of soulmate stories are about misconnections. Like we had the same friend group, but we never met, or we worked in the same office building, but like at different times, or you'll have something like strange in common, like they have the same birthday as your mother, or there's often little breadcrumbs that feel just like, ooh, you get that tingly, like this is magical, right? That's what makes life exciting and fun and passionate. And like, we're supposed to experience love. We're supposed to experience heartbreak also too,
as well.
But it's so we can appreciate the love and that magic moment and the joy that comes from really being in a deep committed relationship with your soulmate is possibly the highest level of bliss we can achieve incarnated in a
skin
body,
suit,
in a skin suit on planet Earth. So yeah, I mean, soulmates are very, very real indeed. They really are.
Have you got any of like your favorite soulmate story that you want to share?
So my favorite soulmate story, and actually I put this in my book that's coming out next year because it's that good. I met this guy who he was a client of mine, and he came to me because he's like, I want to get married. He was like, I think in his late 30s. He was a successful professional. And I think he was a veterinarian, which I was like, women love that.
Yeah.
Right.
Animals, vets.
Like, right. And he was like, every single time I meet a woman that I'm interested in, he goes, I immediately start picking on her flaws. And he goes, I always break up with them because nobody's ever good enough. And he told me one time that he broke up with a girl because he didn't like how one of her toes was shaped.
It's amazing.
And I was like, dude, really? And so in his past life, he remembered being a husband who had a wife that he loved more than anything.
Oh, wow.
And she got sick and died. And he was left alone, completely heartbroken.
Yeah.
So he understood immediately that his behavior was keeping love away. Unconsciously was like, I don't ever want to hurt like that again. So if I never fall in love with anybody, and and he sent me an email about, I think 3 years later, that was his engagement announcement. And he was like, this is the girl that was in my past life. And it was
no way.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Did she have perfect toes?
I didn't ask about her toes, but I imagine that at that point, even if her toes
he was healed. Yeah.
So it's just like, to take that risk was something that was just so hard for him because he had this unconscious fear of loss. And I think that that's true for many of us. We become hardened, or like our hearts aren't open, or this person isn't right and that person isn't right. And when we're overly logical, not that you should just kind of like run away with the bohemian lover, but maybe right? Why not? Like, life is short. But yeah, and that's my favorite story because it was literally like, what's that Rumi quote? Like, your quest is not to seek for love, but rather to remove the obstacles to it.
That's
that
cool.
was literally that working in motion. Like, once he got rid of his unconscious fear, he was able to be open. And maybe he dated a few women before he met her, but by the time he met her, he wasn't going to chase her away because he was too afraid of losing her and being hurt.
But even
So,
kind of like all of the ones that he said no to, he was kind of biding his time to meet his actual soulmate at a later stage.
and that was probably some kind of soul contract that they
Yeah.
had with him. Like, well, we're going to help you. We want you to be
Yeah.
happy. We want to, and they probably went on to whatever lesson, like not having a great toe,
Yeah.
like
Had to
maybe
teach. Yeah.
they found somebody who, like absolutely worships
Yeah.
their feet or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Foot
so,
fetish.
and it's hard to know the ripple effects of the
Yeah.
lessons that we teach each other for good or bad, what we want, what we don't want,
Mm.
where we've made mistakes. But the trick is to keep your heart open
Yeah.
and not close yourself off
Mm.
for love because of the fact that it might be painful or
Mm.
you might suffer a loss. So.
And I always think, like, say when you don't, speak up in a certain thing, or you don't make a hard call on a friendship or a relationship, like what what lesson and am I depriving them of?
True. Yes.
Like it could be that this could be the main thing that they need to, springboard them in their life. But if I don't make this call or end this friendship or relationship, like I'm depriving myself of a lesson and them as well.
And that's, like I said, the hard thing. It's hard to know, when to hold on and when to let go. And I always ask people to really sit with the question of what choice is most loving.
Yeah.
To myself and to them, right? And because you really don't know, like you can open up. I suffered a breakup when I was 20, when I was in college, that I felt like my world was ending, right? Like I had to move, I had to like totally change my life, but it put me on the path that I was on. And actually he came back into my life, not super long ago. And like, he's like a texting buddy of mine. Like he's my friend.
So
And like,
good.
I'm like, but I put him on a path and he put me on a path, and we were not meant to spend our lives together. But we learn so much from each other. So, and every person I've dated, I can say that about, and been married to, which has only been once so far.
So you did say something about narcissists at the start, saying you had experiences or relationships with them. Was that in a romantic sense?
Yeah, I used to be a magnet for narcissists. And actually, I used to have this kind of pattern where I'd flip-flop between the crazy narcissist who was super controlling and super powerful, but like super dynamic. Narcissists are a whole roller coaster ride of the ups and downs. And it's like, and the love bombing, right?
Yeah.
Like my ex-husband was like, our second date, he wanted to just fly to Graceland just because. And I'm like, are you an Elvis fan?
I love it.
Like,
yeah.
But it just, for him, it was just like, let's just do something crazy. We both are music lovers. I'm like, I'm not necessarily an Elvis fan, but okay.
Go with it.
And yeah, like that kind of like, wow, he's so spontaneous. He's so crazy. And then later I was kind of like, okay, too crazy. Can we just kind of come down to earth? I flip-flop between that and like just the nice guy. But until I healed myself, the nice guy was boring.
Yeah, totally.
I wanted those roller coasters because that was what I was used to in my childhood home, watching my parents' relationship, right? Yeah. So, like I said, it's about healing, and our lens by which we view relationships changes as we heal, which is why it is harder to be on a dedicated path of healing and be with one partner long term unless that partner is also dedicated to their growth. Own healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my favorite analogy is like that. It's like two people are two vines and they twist and wind against each other. What happens with vines is when they hit each other, they spur each other to grow in the opposite direction, but then come back together. And I think that that's just a beautiful image. It's kind of like, okay, well, I'm into this and I'm into that. And I had this spiritual awakening, and okay, I'm going to go do my work. And then they come back. You good? Are we still on the same page? Are we still committed to the same path of growth? Okay, good. Okay, go. Right. And so it is hard work, and it takes two people who really want to, have the courage to kind of be open. And like I said, most people get into relationships that are comfortable. People get married and stay married for different reasons, right? and it's not to say that those reasons aren't 100% valid, right? But we're talking about soulmates, we're talking about conscious relationships, we're talking about a higher level of like knowledge and understanding. So, but I think that more and more people are awakening to that,
I think
which
so.
is why
it feels like the seeds are like, it's almost like we've planted this whole lot of seeds and like they're just starting to like sprout. I really resonate with that, Michelle. I think it's happening.
Yeah. And looking at my children's generation, I have one in college and one in high school. They're like, so-and-so's pronouns and this and that, like whatever, like there's so many more possibilities open for them about like sexuality and gender and different relationships and what they might look like than, what
just
we
the
were
standard.
Little standard, like, right. So, I think it's amazing. And I think that it's why our society is evolving in the direction that we are towards more love, inclusivity, equality. Hopefully we keep going there. We have a lot more work to do. But love starts with our interpersonal relationships, like, right? So the love that we share with our soulmate is the love we can radiate out to our community, to the world at large,
So everyone go out and fall in love, please, with your soulmate.
The world needs it.
We definitely need it. Well, I just think that was so beautiful, and there's so much in there, so many gems, and I really hope for anyone who's listening that was expansive. And the main sort of intention for this podcast was really like to help people build their self-worth and their confidence and call in the love they deserve. So I feel like listening to this, there's so many gems in there. So I do have a closing question. So what is the one piece of love advice you would give to your old self?
Oh, never settle.
Never settle. Going. Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah.
That I have a tendency to kind of just stay in things too long that aren't serving me. Like I said, this is like kind of hard but like to let go with love is sometimes just as important as trying to stay and make it work.
Yeah. What did you say before? You said, do something for you with love and the other person with love, or like how can you end it both ways with love?
Letting go with love. Absolutely. But I still haven't settled, so I'm continuing my process.
I love it. Well, I can't wait till to just see your love story unfold as well.
And yours. Like I said, it's a beautiful thing to share with people because it is inspiring. And it is something that I think most people just comes easy. You're going to fall in love and it's just going to be easy, happily ever after. Doesn't exist, right? So it is like
do the work.
It is about putting in the work. So
well, thank you so much, Michelle. I love chatting with you. Two of possibly my favorite episodes. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And all your insightful questions. Thank you.
So good. All righty, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in.